What's up, guys? So we are at Bull Run Manassas Harley Davidson again. I am extremely excited to test out the Lowrider ST. Already this feels great. Very comfortable. You got your typical Harley controls. It's got cruise control. Man, as you can see, this is the 2022 Lowrider ST. We've been talking about this on the channel quite a bit. I'm really curious to see, the differences between the 117 and the 114, the power delivery, and also how much better is this fairing going to be for me. This isn't going to be, like a full-on review. This is just a first impression. So yeah, this is very familiar. You got the street bob gauges here, very visible. I don't have to peek all the way down at the cluster that my Lowrider is, but I do like the look of it. Alright, so already I can kind of feel that this has a little bit more torque than my Lowrider S. It just wants to seem to want to jump out. Yeah, see? And man, this fairing is very nice. But I also like the fact that this fairing is frame mounted. For me personally, I just like that look a little bit better. Wow.
I have a 2020 Lowrider S with the full stage 1, and the Lowrider ST already felt even more powerful and more torquey than my 2020 Lowrider S, which is really impressive.
I don't know if I'm going to want to get back on my Lowrider S after this. Alright, so if you need to know the details, if you've been living under a rock, or this is your first time introduction to this Lowrider ST 2022, it's got the 117 engine. I don't know exactly the horsepower and the torque. I'll try to see if I can list it down in the video below, but those are the basic main changes to this bike versus my 2020 Lowrider S. It's got the slight forward mid controls. Everything feels real smooth. The one thing that I was curious about was, how much heavier is this Lowrider S feel-wise? And I can kind of say that this doesn't feel much heavier than my current Lowrider S. The suspension feels really great. It's slightly higher than my 2020 Lowrider S. So that you get a little bit more ground clearance, a little bit more of a lean angle, and all that translates just into a better feel. A sportier feel with the 117 as well. I definitely get a lot more bike vibrations on this Lowrider ST than versus my 2020, which is kind of nice. It has a little bit more feedback. It also comes with the Sport Glide bags, obviously, that are on the back here, color matched and everything. So straight from the rip, this bike can eat some miles. I don't recall if the handlebars are raised versus the previous year model, but it feels really comfortable. All right, so we are 50 miles an hour, and again, I just feel very slight breeze. I'm surprised at how much wind that this fairing blocks off. Oh yeah. Guys, I was wrong. I thought that this Lowrider ST was no big deal, but man, this feels good. This bike feels really good. I could ride this all day. Man, I love the brakes. Just has so much bite. And this seat is actually really comfortable. I don't know, it's nicely broken in. The gears all have a nice little clunk, very good feedback. Engine's definitely louder. You can just hear the clacking. Alright, so you got the typical gauge clusters all right here. I still prefer my analog gauges versus this digital, but this works. You can very easily see where everything is. And this on the highway, oh wow, you could really cruise. And speaking of cruise, you have your integrated cruise control right here. Comes standard on this bike. Just overall, this bike feels way more refined than my Lowrider S, my 2020 Lowrider S. I didn't think I'd feel this way, but man. All right, so let's talk about the seating position and the suspension a little bit. Seating position with the stock seat feels a little bit raised for me. I'm not quite liking that. I like to be a little bit more inside the cockpit, if you will, but that's easily adjustable. That's easily customizable if you want to change anything out. All right. And then the suspension feels awesome. You know, again, this is just the first ride, initial impression, but feels really good. Hell yeah. Man, that engine is just so responsive. That 117, it kind of does make a difference. Like, I could cruise all day on this. You got the 5-gallon tank. You get about 40-ish, 40 to 50 miles per gallon, depending on how aggressive you drive. But yeah, this feels awesome. I think it's also worth noting that I've never ridden a road glide or a street glide before, or a Road King, but this is right up my alley.
All right, so it's been about a full week after the demo ride, and I'm still blown away by how much better the Lowrider ST was versus compared to my 2020 Lowrider S. The engine was just so smooth, responsive, definitely had a lot more torque. And I found out from talking to one of the Harley guys at the dealership is that they used a different cam on the Lowrider ST. I couldn't verify that or not, but to me, it definitely felt a lot more responsive. But whatever it was, it definitely felt a lot more torquey, a lot more responsive at the throttle. The throttle felt really good through and through. All the gears have, you know, power on tap. So any gear that you're in, you can definitely pick up some speed. You know, when I think back on it, fairing on the Lowrider ST is just so well designed. The looks may not be for everyone, but I think they did a really good job in designing a fairing that blocks off a lot of the wind. Like I mentioned throughout this video, I didn't really feel any wind at all. Really, it was just kind of like a pleasant breeze more so than anything else. Also, the stock setup was really comfortable for me coming in at 5'8". Sure, I would definitely like to raise the handlebars. Even if I didn't, stock setups felt really good to me, felt very comfortable.
That just felt so much beefier versus my Lowrider S. That 117 with this air cleaner makes a difference, guys.
All in all, I think Harley did a really good job with the execution and design of this Harley Lowrider ST. The design choices and like the things that they picked, like the street bob gauges and the one gas cap on the right-hand side, along with some other aesthetic, you know, changes that they made, may not be for everyone. I still don't really love the look of it, but to me, they were really performance-minded with this Lowrider ST, and it really, really shined through.
Still a very nimble bike, just as nimble as my Lowrider S. I feel no wind buffeting. I feel very little wind.
Like it?
It's f***ing awesome.
That 117's fun, huh?
It is. I didn't think you'd be able to tell a difference, but you really can. So overall thoughts, straight from the rip, you can tell that there's just more torque. Like, it just wants to jump out. You don't have to push it as hard as my Lowrider S just to get that torque. It just comes naturally. There's gobs and gobs of it. Man, it is just awesome. Very smooth bike. Really impressed with this fairing. They've engineered something fantastic where it blocks off a tremendous amount of wind. But man, that was fun. Fun diddly yum. So that was a Lowrider ST, y'all.
I test drove the S and with the 117 about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And it was just me and him riding. I mean,
It rips.
response on that thing, and for how long?
Yeah.
It was insane.
There's just so much more torque just right from the grip. Like,
I notice on like the hills, any gear you're in, it just starts.
dude, yeah, it just jumps. Oof.
What'd you think, buddy?
Yeah, it's like so much different.
Yeah?
Everybody
Oof.
rides different than our bike.